There is a kind of quiet that doesn't belong in a place like Hudson Yards. We've learned to recognize it, not the peaceful kind, the kind that follows something being rearranged without permission. Aria Bennett works in rooms that are not meant to look lived in. She builds desire for a living. She stages emptiness so convincingly that buyers imagine futures inside it. The problem with illusion is that someone else may try to claim it. This is where she begins. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Chocolate. Not the cheap kind. Thick, sweet, expensive. It didn't belong in a pre-sale unit with creme boucle and Italian leather trim. The sectional cost $19,850. I know that number because I signed the vendor invoice myself. Chocolate was pressed deep into the seat cushion. My bronze sculpture was tilted off its plinth. One edge cracked clean through the base. That piece was on loan from a Chelsea gallery. $21,400 insured under my certificate of insurance. A ring light was still glowing on the marble island. Danica was standing in the middle of the living room holding her phone up at arm's length. "Good morning." "Manhattan," she was saying to whoever was watching. "Real investor energy today." She saw me in the reflection before she saw me in person. "Oh, you're early." I didn't look at her first. I walked to the wine rack. 3 bottles of the developer's Napa Reserve display inventory were open. Those were tracked under the staging agreement. Every bottle logged. "You opened the display wine." She shrugged. "It's just wine. It's not yours." She lowered the phone but didn't end the live. "Relax. You stage this stuff. You don't own it either." That one landed where she meant it to. From the kitchen. My mother's voice floated out. "Aria, don't start." She walked in holding another glass. "Your sister needed space. You have an entire penthouse you barely use. It's a pre-sale unit." I answered. "It belongs to Horizon Key Development. I'm the staging director. I'm liable for every item in here." Danica laughed softly. "Liable. You make everything sound like court, because it is." She rolled her eyes and picked up the phone again. "Ignore the background noise. Guys. Family dynamics." My phone buzzed in my hand, a text from the project lead. "We received a building incident notice. If this happens again, we terminate." I felt that in my chest more than the chocolate on the sofa. "Turn the camera off," I told her. "No. Danica." She tilted her head. "You're overreacting. I'm literally helping you. This makes the place look lived in. We've seen that moment before, when a room stops being a room and becomes a line drawn in someone's life." I stepped closer and lowered my voice. "You need to leave. Now." She studied me like I was the unreasonable one. "Or what? Or I treat this like what it is. And what is that, a commercial asset being damaged without authorization?" She stared at me for a second, then laughed. "You would not call the police on your own sister." I didn't answer her. I walked past her and started taking photos. Every stain, every bottle, every scratch. Because whether she believed it or not, this was not her house. And I was done pretending it was. After they left, I didn't clean anything. I stood in the middle of the living room and looked at the damage the way a claims adjuster would. Not like a sister, like a vendor. I opened my laptop on the marble island. Inventory spreadsheet. Staging agreement. Certificate of insurance. Every line item tied back to me. The developer called within the hour. "Aria, we received a formal notice from building management. Mr. Patel's voice came through calm, controlled. "What happened in that unit my sister entered without authorization?" There was a pause on the other end, papers shuffling. "You understand that this is a pre-sale marketing unit. Buyers are touring next week. I understand. If there is another incident, we terminate your contract. No exceptions. Terminate. 6 years of projects. 6 years of perfect inspections. Gone because my family couldn't tell the difference between property and opportunity. I'll handle it." "You need to," he replied. "Asset protection is already asking questions." The line went dead. I looked at the sofa again. $19,850. The bronze sculpture. $21,400 insured through the gallery, 3 bottles of Napa Reserve, logged inventory. My phone buzzed. Danica. Can you not be dramatic about earlier I didn't answer right away? You embarrassed me, she continued. Logan thinks you hate me. This isn't about hate. Then what is it about? It's about liability. It's about an executed vendor agreement. It's about me signing my name to things you treat like props. She sighed into the phone. You always hide behind paperwork. Paperwork is the only thing that stands in court. Oh my God, you're impossible. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes for a second. I could still smell chocolate. Don't bring anyone into that unit again. It's not a prison. Aria. It's not your home. Silence. Then softer, almost annoyed. You're acting like I stole something. I looked at the cracked base of the sculpture. You did. She hung up. I stayed there a while longer, staring at the spreadsheet. Because if this happened again, it wouldn't just be a stain on a sofa. It would be my career. 2 nights later, I wasn't at the unit. I was home, sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open to the security feed. I check it most nights. Part of the job. Buyers fly in from London, Singapore, São Paulo. You don't leave an $8.7 million pre-sale unit unattended without cameras. The motion alert came at 7:43 in the evening. Front hall, elevator lobby, living room. I leaned forward. Danica stepped into frame wearing a white blazer I'd never seen before. Logan was behind her. His parents followed, dressed like they were attending a fundraiser. I turned the volume up. Is this it? Logan's father? Samuel. Sounded impressed already. Danica walked them toward the windows. It's one of the acquisitions. We're still finalizing paperwork. Logan laughed lightly. She downplays everything. On the island? She placed a thin folder. I zoomed in, Horizon Key letterhead, or a version of it. She opened the folder and slid out a document. Letter of intent. She announced casually. We're in contract. Closing next quarter. Logan skimmed it. That's fast. I move fast. His mother, Margot, touched the edge of the sectional. It's beautiful. You chose all of this. Danica smiled. Of course. Aria handles staging for my properties. She's good at details. I felt something tighten in my throat. Logan glanced around. And financing private capital. She replied without hesitation. You know I've been building that portfolio. He nodded, satisfied. He didn't ask for an executed purchase agreement. He didn't ask for a closing statement. The letter of intent was enough. It looked official. It had a watermark. I zoomed further. The signature block was wrong. The developer's name was slightly off. Horizon Key Developments. There was no S in the real entity. Samuel tapped the folder. We're proud of you. Danica's voice softened. I wanted to surprise you. I leaned back in my chair. It wasn't about the sofa anymore. Or the wine. She had built a version of my work and placed herself inside it. My phone buzzed. Logan. Hey. He began. Danica said you've been helping her with this acquisition. It looks incredible. I took a slow breath. She told you she bought that unit. That's what the LOI says. That letter of intent isn't real? Silence. Then, carefully. What are you talking about? It's a pre-sale marketing unit. It belongs to Horizon Key Development. There is no executed lease, no deed, no closing. He didn't respond right away. I could hear him walking, a door closing somewhere in the background. Aria, he said quietly. Why would she lie about something like that? Logan didn't call back that night. The next morning. My mother did. Her voice sounded thin, breathless. Aria, I think I left my heart medication in the kitchen cabinet at the unit. You don't keep medication there. I must have. I'm feeling tight in the chest. I closed my eyes. I had cleaned that kitchen myself after the chocolate incident. Every cabinet, every drawer. The pharmacy isn't open yet. She continued, I just need to go in and grab it. Please. I don't want to end up in the emergency room. I looked at the clock on my wall. 8:15. You have your prescriptions at home. Aria. I wouldn't lie about this. That word hung there. Lie. I'll issue a temporary guest registration. I told her finally. 30 minutes. That's it. Oh, thank you. You're a good daughter. The building requires vendor access through registered guests and freight reservations. I generated a one-time code through the management portal and sent it to her. Expiration 30 minutes. At 9:22, I received another motion alert. Freight elevator, lobby, living room. I opened the feed. My mother wasn't alone. Danica walked in behind her carrying 2 garment bags. A man in a black jacket followed with lighting equipment. Another woman wheeled in a small rack. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. What's going on? Just grabbing a few things. That's not what I'm seeing. It's fine, she replied. Too quickly. Danica needs to pick up something she left. Danica stepped into camera range and looked directly at it. Relax, she mouthed. I checked the building log. Guest registration listed under my name. Freight window labeled as staging adjustment. She had used my vendor status to legitimize entry. The man in black set up a tripod. The woman began arranging throw pillows. Mom, I said slowly, this is unauthorized access to a commercial asset. Don't talk like that, she snapped, voice dropping the weakness. You make everything sound criminal. It is. The line went silent. On screen. Danica moved toward the windows, adjusting her blazer in the reflection. She wasn't retrieving medication. She was preparing a scene. I didn't go to the unit that afternoon. I stayed at my desk and watched. Danica had changed into a fitted dress by the time Logan and his parents stepped into the living room again. The lighting equipment was gone. Everything looked staged, perfect. Samuel moved slowly across the rug, hands behind his back. This is prime exposure, he observed, glancing out at the skyline. You timed this well. Margot ran her fingers over the back of the sectional. It feels curated. Danica smiled. I don't rush into anything. When I commit, I commit. Logan stood near the island, holding that same folder. The fake letter of intent. We're just finalizing escrow, he told his parents. Private deal, off market. I felt my jaw tighten. Margot turned toward the hallway. And Aria handles the details. Danica nodded easily. She's meticulous. I trust her. Trust. I leaned closer to the screen. I could see the sculpture base, still cracked. They hadn't noticed. Samuel glanced at Logan. Smart move keeping it quiet until paperwork clears. It's still early, Danica replied softly. I didn't want to jinx it. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Please don't interfere. This means a lot to her. I stared at the message for a long second. On screen, Danica poured water into crystal glasses from the display set. Not wine this time. Careful. Controlled. Logan stepped closer to her. I'm proud of you, he murmured. She rested her hand on his arm. And just like that, I understood. It wasn't about the apartment. It was about being seen standing inside it. I booked an Acela ticket for the first train out of Penn Station the next morning. Destination Washington, District of Columbia. A real consultation for a historic estate in Georgetown. That part was not a lie. Before the train pulled out of the tunnel, I sent one message to the family group chat. I am headed to District of Columbia for 3 days. The Hudson Yards unit is locked down. No one enters. The building monitors everything. Danica responded almost immediately. Safe travels. Do not stress. My mother added a heart emoji. On the train. I did not look at the passing Maryland coastline. I opened the building portal on my tablet and watched the static camera angles like they were weather reports. Empty foyer, dark kitchen, untouched sectional worth $19,850. When I reached my hotel in Georgetown, I found a quiet corner in the lobby and checked again. Still nothing. I called Logan. You talked to Danica. A pause. She says you are overreacting. She forged a letter of intent. Logan. That is a strong word. It is the right one. That document is 0% valid. He exhaled slowly. She told me it was a draft. It was a fabrication. Silence on his end. I looked back at the feed. The unit was quiet. Too quiet. I knew her well enough to understand that silence was not compliance. It was timing. She was waiting for me to be far enough away. She did not realize that at 150 miles per hour, I was only a few hours from ending the lie. The first alert hit at 6:58 p.m. Eastern Time. Motion in the corridor. Then the foyer, then the living room. I was in my hotel room in Washington, District of Columbia, sitting on the edge of the bed with my laptop open. I had already booked a return a cella ticket for 9 p.m., but for now, I was a silent witness. The camera view filled with bodies. Danica walked in first, radiating the false confidence of someone who believed a lie becomes truth if told loudly enough. Logan followed, looking uneasy, and behind them came a small army, a guy carrying a black DJ flight case, 2 women with garment bags, and a catering worker rolling a cart of glassware. Danica clapped her hands. Shoes off if you want. I do not care. Just do not scuff the floors on camera. Margot Pierce leaned toward Danica. This is lovely. You are sure the building is fine with all this? Danica smiled, her eyes fixed on her ring light. Aria's vendor access is already on file. It is handled. My stomach turned. She was not just trespassing. She was hijacking my professional identity to bypass a multi-million-dollar security system. I opened my spreadsheet on the side of the screen. I created a new tab. Date, time, item, estimated value. Danica went straight for the wine fridge. No one touched the top shelf, she called out, then pulled a bottle of the developer's Napa Reserve anyway. She popped the cork with a practiced twist. Logan hesitated. Babe, those are display bottles for the international tours. They are real, she replied, pouring the deep red liquid into a plastic cup. That is the point. I typed $3,900 display wine inventory compromised. Someone turned the music up. The bass made the pendant lights tremble. A man in a blazer stumbled toward the windows and tugged at the Belgian linen drapes to adjust the lighting for a photo. The fabric groaned. Careful, Margot warned. It is fine, Danica answered. If anything breaks, it is insured through the business. A few minutes later, the man grabbed the fabric again. The custom track snapped, and the panel slumped. I typed, $8,950 custom drapery panels torn. I watched, cold and detached. I could have called the lobby then, but I knew how the police worked in New York. If I called now, it was a family dispute or a civil trespass. I needed the numbers to speak for me. I needed the damage to cross the line where a judge could not look away. Logan's brother laughed too loud and leaned his full weight against the marble plinth. The bronze sculpture the Chelsea Gallery loan wobbled. Do not touch that, Logan muttered. Danica rolled her eyes. It is art, Logan. It can handle a lien. It could not. At 7:30 p.m., 2 guests tried to move the modular sectional to create a dance floor. They did not lift it. They dragged the heavy frame. I watched the wide plank oak floors scream under the weight. I typed $6,800 hardwood refinishing, $19,850 sectional frame stress. Then, the sculpture tipped. It rocked once, then hit the floor with a heavy, final thud. The base cracked clean through. I stared at the screen. The Chelsea Gallery invoice was $21,400. Combined with the wine, the drapes, and the floors, the total was $51,400. In the state of New York, criminal mischief in the second degree, a Class D felony starts at $1,500. My sister had just cleared that threshold by 3,400%. I stopped typing. I picked up my phone and called the building's corporate asset protection line. "This is Aria Bennett," I said, my voice as flat as a dial tone. "I am the lead stager for the Horizon Key unit. I am watching a felony in progress on the live feed. I need the property manager, Mr. Henderson. At the door with the police immediately. I am 3 hours away, but my documentation is already in your inbox." "We are rolling," the dispatcher replied. I closed my laptop and grabbed my coat. The lie was over. Now, only the math remained. I reached Hudson Yards 3 hours later. The Acela had felt like a slow-motion blur, but the reality hitting me in the lobby was sharp. Corporate asset protection had already coordinated with the New York Police Department. 2 uniformed officers stood near the elevators with Mr. Henderson, the property manager. He gave me a short, grim nod. "They are still upstairs. We waited for your arrival to finalize the inventory sweep." The elevator ride felt longer than the train journey from the District of Columbia. When the doors slid open on the penthouse level, the silence was jarring. The music had been cut mid-beat, leaving only the low hum of the climate control and the distant sound of someone sobbing. The living room looked worse in person. Shards of glass littered the floor. One $9,000 drape hung loose like a broken wing. Red wine was bleeding into the custom rug. Danica stood near the windows, her arms folded. She was still trying to wear the room like a costume. "Oh, good," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Aria is here to clear this up." The lead officer turned to me. "You are Aria Bennett, the senior staging director I am." He glanced back at Danica. "This individual claims she is the primary resident. She says this is a private acquisition." Danica lifted her chin, gesturing to her husband and his parents. "It is." I showed them the paperwork. "Proof of occupancy," the officer requested, his voice flat. "I need to see a state-issued identification card matching this address, an executed deed, or a utility bill in your name." Danica handed over the thin folder. "I told you, it is a private deal. Here is the letter of intent." The officer scanned the page for exactly 4 seconds. "This is a non-binding letter of intent with a misspelled corporate entity name. This is 0% valid as a legal title or a lease." "Mr. Henderson stepped forward. "Officer, I am the authorized representative for Horizon Key Development. I can confirm this unit is a commercial marketing asset. No lease exists. No closing has occurred. No transfer of title has been authorized." I opened my briefcase and handed over my file. "Here is the commercial vendor agreement. Here is the certificate of insurance on file with the building. And this is the comprehensive inventory list with the time-stamped damage log I compiled while watching the unauthorized entry via the security feed." Logan moved closer to Danica, his face pale. "Danica, where are the closing documents you said we were in escrow?" "There is no escrow account," I added quietly. "There is only staging inventory that has been destroyed." The officer looked at the cracked $21,400 sculpture. "Ma'am, turn around. Based on the owner's statement and the fact that the damages exceed $50,000, you are under arrest for burglary in the 2nd degree and felony criminal mischief in the 2nd degree." The sound of the handcuffs clicking was small, but it echoed through the $8,700,000 room. Danica screamed at me as they led her away. "You ruined my life." I looked at the wreckage of the room I had spent months building. "No," I said. "I just stopped letting you use mine." The hallway felt hollow after the elevator doors closed. "Mr. Henderson remained with the officers, walking them through the wreckage. I stood near the kitchen, staring at the empty wine rack that once held $3,900 of tracked inventory. Logan approached slowly. "She told me it was real," he said, his voice flat. "She showed me a draft letter of intent and emails about financing. I did not push for the 100% finalized deed. She needed you not to," I replied. From the living room, Margot's voice drifted over. "Samuel, We are leaving. They walked past me without a word, their curated world shattered. Logan finally met my eyes. Is there anything that can be done? The $53,000 in damages makes this a matter for the district attorney now, I said. My phone buzzed. My mother. How could you let them take her? She demanded. The property manager pressed charges. Mom, she used my name to commit a felony. You could have stopped this, she whispered, weaponizing her grief. I looked at the cracked sculpture and the torn drapes. No, I said. I stopped being the one who pays for her lies. The unit reopened 3 weeks later. Restored floors, new drapery panels, the sculpture replaced with a temporary piece while the gallery handled restoration. The wine rack restocked and logged. Buyers toured that morning. Mr. Henderson stood near the entry, composed as ever. Strong interest, he told me quietly. You handled this professionally. I handled my contract. He gave a small nod and left me alone in the living room once the last client stepped out. The space felt neutral again. Quiet. No ring lights. No laughter that didn't belong there. Logan texted earlier that day. She's retained counsel. I didn't respond. My mother called once. I let it go to voicemail. I walked through each room slowly, checking corners out of habit. A small scratch near the baseboard. I noted it mentally. Not urgent. I paused near the island where Danica once stood claiming ownership. For a long time, I thought being the reasonable one meant absorbing things, smoothing them over, explaining gently, letting it slide. That version of Aria Bennett believed patience would earn respect. This one understands something else. Documentation protects me. Boundaries protect me. Silence, sometimes, protects me. I picked up my phone and blocked my mother's number. Then I closed the staging folder and turned off the lights. Some stories stay in rooms. Some leave with you. This one stayed behind. And that was enough. We've watched Aria Bennett step back into her own name without apology. If you're still here, you already understand why that matters.